Hello, Army. Tonight, we're not talking about charts, trophies, or streaming numbers. This is about something way more dangerous and addictive: emotional chemistry. The kind that doesn't scream, but lingers. The kind that doesn't trend, but lasts. Min Yoongi, SUGA of BTS, is known as a quiet storm, sharp mind, guarded heart, brutally honest lyrics. But behind that calm, there are people who resonate with his soul on a frequency most fans never fully notice. This list isn't about romance rumors or shipping fantasies. This is about artistic gravity, emotional alignment, mutual respect, shared wounds, and moments where two souls seem to recognize each other without needing explanations. Have you ever wondered who really understands Yoongi when the cameras are off? Who can sit in silence with him and not feel awkward? Who challenges his mind, softens his edges, or mirrors his pain without trying to fix it? These connections were built through late-night studio sessions, raw lyric exchanges, subtle glances on stage, unspoken loyalty, and moments where words weren't necessary because the feeling was already there. Some of these names shocked fans, some felt obvious, and some quietly existed in the background, waiting to be noticed. What makes a soulmate for someone like SUGA, someone who battles self-doubt, perfectionism, and emotional extremes? Is it shared trauma, creative synergy, trust, or simply the ability to let him be unapologetically human? As we count down, don't just listen, feel it. Because each name on this list represents a different side of Yoongi's inner world. The producer, the poet, the brother, the rebel, the soft-hearted introvert hiding behind sarcasm. And by the time we reach number 1, you might realize that soulmate energy doesn't always look loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and painfully real. Ready to step into Yoongi's emotional universe? Let's begin. Number 7, Jin, the silent anchor. At first glance, Jin being on this list might surprise people who only see him as the loud laugh, the dad jokes, the worldwide handsome mood maker. But if you look closer, really closer, Jin is one of the few people who naturally syncs with Yoongi's emotional rhythm without ever trying to overpower it. Their soulmate energy isn't flashy or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, and deeply human. Jin is the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, and that alone already makes him special in Yoongi's world. From their earliest trainee days, Jin and Yoongi shared something subtle but powerful. Both were outsiders in different ways. Yoongi came in as a producer who didn't dream of being an idol, while Jin entered the industry with no background in singing or dancing, armed only with determination and an unexpected emotional resilience. That shared sense of learning while surviving created a bond built on empathy, not competition. Jin understood what it felt like to feel behind, to feel unsure, and Yoongi saw that without needing explanations. What makes Jin a soulmate-type figure for Yoongi is his emotional intelligence disguised as humor. Jin knows exactly when to joke and when to shut up. He's one of the few members who can sit next to Yoongi in total silence and make it feel comfortable, not awkward. In countless behind-the-scenes moments, you'll notice Jin quietly checking on Yoongi, offering food, cracking a low-energy joke, or simply staying close without pushing conversation. That's not coincidence. That's emotional attunement. Jin doesn't try to fix Yoongi's darkness, and Yoongi doesn't feel pressured to brighten up for Jin. They let each other exist as they are. Musically, Jin may not be part of Yoongi's producing world directly, but emotionally, he balances it. Yoongi is brutally honest with his thoughts, sometimes too sharp even for himself, while Jin carries a soft optimism that never feels fake. Jin's confidence isn't loud, it's hard-earned. And Yoongi respects that kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need validation. When Yoongi speaks about responsibility, leadership, and endurance, Jin is often right there, embodying those values in a different form. Their dynamic feels like two men who understand that life isn't always kind, but you endure anyway. There's also something deeply grounding about Jin's presence for Yoongi. In a group full of intense passion, emotions, and ambition, Jin offers stability. He reminds Yoongi that it's okay to laugh, to rest, to eat well, to take care of the basics. And Yoongi, in return, respects Jin not just as the oldest member, but as someone who carries emotional weight quietly and gracefully. This isn't the kind of soulmate story that trends on social media. It's the kind that lasts. The kind built on late nights, shared exhaustion, unspoken trust, and mutual respect. Jin doesn't invade Yoongi's inner world, but he stands guard at the door, making sure it stays safe. And sometimes, that's the most powerful soulmate energy of all. Number 6, Taehyung. Two souls, one mirror. Taehyung and Yoongi connect on a level that feels almost surreal, like two people speaking different emotional languages, yet somehow understanding each other perfectly. Their soulmate energy isn't built on similarity, but on resonance. Taehyung is expressive, intuitive, and emotionally porous, while Yoongi is reserved, analytical, and guarded. And yet, when these two collide, something quietly magical happens. Taehyung sees what Yoongi feels before Yoongi even puts it into words. From early BTS days, Yoongi often treated Taehyung with a softness that surprised fans, teasing him gently, defending him subtly, and allowing him space to be different in a world that often demanded conformity. Taehyung, in return, never tried to drag Yoongi out of his shell. Instead, he simply sat beside him, absorbing the silence like it was music. That's not accidental. That's emotional compatibility. Taehyung's artistic sensitivity mirrors Yoongi's inner chaos in a way that feels familiar, not threatening. Both are deeply artistic souls who feel too much, but express it differently. Yoongi through lyrics and beats, Taehyung through tone, visuals, and emotional presence. What makes Taehyung soulmate coded for Yoongi is his ability to validate emotions without questioning them. Taehyung doesn't ask Yoongi to explain why he feels heavy. He accepts the heaviness as part of who he is. In multiple behind-the-scenes moments, Taehyung instinctively gravitates toward Yoongi during emotionally charged times, award shows, exhausting schedules, or moments of pressure. There's a reason for that. Taehyung feels safe around Yoongi's honesty, and Yoongi feels understood by Taehyung's empathy. Musically, their collaboration energy is understated but powerful. Taehyung's deep, soulful voice aligns perfectly with Yoongi's raw, stripped-down production style. You can hear it in moments where Yoongi talks about music as emotion rather than performance. Taehyung embodies that philosophy naturally. Beyond music, their conversations often drift into existential territory, meaning, art, loneliness, identity. These aren't surface-level exchanges. These are late-night, no-camera conversations that leave a mark. Yoongi has often shown a protective instinct toward Taehyung, especially when Taehyung's sensitivity is misunderstood by others. And Taehyung, in his own quiet way, grounds Yoongi emotionally, reminding him that vulnerability isn't weakness, but a form of courage. Their bond feels like two people who recognize the same sadness in each other, yet choose to create beauty from it. It's not loud, it's not performative, and it doesn't need labels. Taehyung doesn't complete Yoongi, but he reflects him. And sometimes, the truest soulmate isn't the one who fills the gaps, but the one who shows you that your emotions make sense exactly as they are. Number 5, Jungkook. Brotherhood beyond blood. Jungkook and Yoongi's soulmate energy is forged in something far deeper than age difference or roles. It's built on trust that grew under pressure, loyalty formed in silence, and a bond that feels unbreakable because it was tested early. Yoongi didn't just watch Jungkook grow up. He witnessed his transformation from a wide-eyed trainee into a global artist carrying immense weight on his shoulders. And Jungkook didn't just admire Yoongi as a producer or hyung. He leaned on him as a pillar, a guide, someone who understood the cost of chasing greatness. Their connection feels like a quiet contract. I've got you, even when you don't say it. Yoongi has always been fiercely protective of Jungkook, often in subtle ways fans might miss, stepping in during tense moments, speaking honestly to ground him, or simply being present when Jungkook needed stability. Jungkook, in return, trusts Yoongi's words more than almost anyone else's. When Yoongi speaks, Jungkook listens, not because of hierarchy, but because he knows Yoongi's honesty comes without ego. That's soulmate-level respect. What makes their bond special is how naturally they balance each other. Jungkook is energy, curiosity, and relentless self-improvement, while Yoongi is restraint, reflection, and hard-earned wisdom. Jungkook pushes Yoongi forward emotionally, reminding him of possibility and growth, while Yoongi anchors Jungkook when ambition starts to become overwhelming. There's a reason Jungkook often seeks Yoongi out during moments of doubt. Yoongi doesn't sugarcoat reality, but he never dismisses feelings. He teaches Jungkook that struggle doesn't mean failure, it means you're alive and trying. Musically, their synergy is undeniable. Jungkook respects Yoongi's producer instincts deeply, often deferring to his judgment when it comes to sound, emotion, and storytelling. Yoongi, on the other hand, recognizes Jungkook's rare talent, not just his voice, but his work ethic and emotional depth. He doesn't treat Jungkook like a kid. He treats him like an artist who deserves to be taken seriously. That kind of validation matters, especially for someone who grew up under the spotlight. Their conversations, though rarely shown in full, often carry a mentor-student tone that gradually evolved into mutual respect. Over time, the gap closed, not in age, but in understanding. Jungkook matured, Yoongi softened, and somewhere in between, they met as equals emotionally. There's also an unspoken vulnerability between them. Jungkook feels safe showing exhaustion around Yoongi, and Yoongi allows himself moments of gentleness around Jungkook that he rarely shows elsewhere. It's not dramatic, it's deeply real. Their bond feels like family, not the loud kind, but the kind that stays when everything else gets noisy. Jungkook doesn't just see Yoongi as a hyung. He sees him as someone who understands the fear of falling and the courage it takes to keep standing. And Yoongi doesn't just see Jungkook as the golden magne. He sees a young man carrying pressure far heavier than his age. That mutual recognition, that shared understanding of burden and growth, is what places Jungkook firmly in Yoongi's soulmate orbit. Number 4. He-eyes. Healing frequencies. When you talk about soulmate energy in the artistic sense, the kind that feels less like collaboration and more like emotional translation, He-eyes and SUGA sit right at that intersection. Their connection doesn't rely on constant interaction or public chemistry. It lives in sound, in atmosphere, in the way emotion is allowed to breathe between notes. He-eyes' voice carries vulnerability without weakness, and Yoongi's production carries pain without self-pity. When those two worlds meet, something incredibly intimate happens. Yoongi has always gravitated toward artists who understand emotional nuance, and He-eyes is exactly that kind of soul. She doesn't oversing, she doesn't over-explain, she feels. And Yoongi respects that deeply. Their musical synergy feels like two people who understand that sadness doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. Tracks associated with their creative overlap show restraint, space, and honesty, qualities that define Yoongi's inner world. He-eyes' lyricism often explores loneliness, longing, and quiet heartbreak, themes that mirror Yoongi's own struggles with mental health, pressure, and identity. That's not coincidence, that's resonance. What makes He-eyes soulmate coded for Yoongi is the way she meets him emotionally, without trying to change the mood. She doesn't force brightness into dark spaces. She sits in them and makes them feel safe. Yoongi has spoken before about how music can be therapy, not just performance, and He-eyes embodies that philosophy naturally. Their connection feels like two people who don't need to explain why a certain chord hurts or why silence sometimes says more than words. There's a deep mutual respect there. Yoongi trusts He-eyes to carry emotional weight without distortion, and He-eyes trusts Yoongi to frame her voice with honesty rather than spectacle. Behind the scenes, their energy is calm, focused, almost meditative. No chaos, no ego, just two artists locked into the same emotional frequency. He-eyes' presence seems to soften Yoongi, not by distracting him, but by reminding him that pain can be shared and still remain beautiful. And Yoongi, in turn, gives He-eyes space to exist authentically, without pressure to perform happiness. That's rare in an industry obsessed with image. Their bond feels like late-night studio lights, rain tapping on windows, unfinished thoughts turning into melodies. It's not loud and it doesn't demand attention, but it stays with you long after the music ends. He-eyes doesn't complete Yoongi's story, she harmonizes with it. And sometimes, The truest soulmate isn't the one who changes your life, but the one who understands it exactly as it is and still chooses to stay in tune. Number 3, Halsey. Twin flames across oceans. When SUGA and Halsey connect, it feels like two raw diaries colliding, unfiltered, bruised, and unapologetically honest. Their soulmate energy isn't born from proximity or culture, but from shared emotional DNA. Different countries, different languages, wildly different upbringings. Yet somehow, the same scars echo between them. Both are artists who write from wounds, not concepts. Both have openly talked about mental health struggles, identity confusion, and the exhaustion of living inside expectations. That's why when Jungkook and Halsey work together, it doesn't feel like a feature. It feels like a conversation between two people who finally don't have to pretend they're okay. From the moment their creative paths crossed, there was an immediate sense of mutual recognition. Halsey didn't approach Jungkook like a fan or a pop star chasing trends. She met him as an equal, an artist who understands what it means to bleed into your work. Jungkook, in turn, respected her honesty. He doesn't connect with personas, he connects with truth. And Halsey's truth has always been loud, messy, and real. Their collaboration carries emotional tension that can't be faked, the kind that comes from mutual vulnerability. What makes Halsey soulmate coded for Jungkook is the way she challenges him emotionally without threatening his sense of self. She doesn't soften her edges to match him, and he doesn't dilute his darkness to accommodate her. They meet in the middle. Two intense minds coexisting without compromise. You can feel it in the way their music breathes, in the raw delivery, in the emotional push and pull. Beyond music, their respect runs deep. Halsey has consistently spoken about Jungkook not just as a collaborator, but as someone she genuinely admires for his depth and integrity. And Jungkook doesn't hand out praise lightly. When he aligns with someone, it's because he recognizes authenticity. Their bond feels like two people who understand that art isn't always pretty, but it's necessary. There's also a powerful sense of emotional safety between them. Halsey can be chaotic, expressive, emotionally exposed, and Jungkook doesn't flinch. Jungkook can be withdrawn, blunt, emotionally heavy, and Halsey doesn't demand more. They accept each other's emotional weather without trying to control it. That's rare. Their soulmate energy feels like midnight conversations, creative exhaustion, and mutual understanding of what it costs to turn pain into art.
No sugar coating, no masks.
Just two souls who know that healing doesn't always look like happiness. It sometimes looks like being understood. And in that shared understanding, Jungkook and Halsey find something incredibly rare: connection without translation. Their connection also lives beyond the studio, in the way they publicly support each other without turning it into spectacle. Halsey doesn't tokenize Jungkook as a K-pop genius, and Jungkook doesn't reduce Halsey to a Western pop icon. Both reject being boxed in, and that shared resistance creates trust. When Halsey talks about Jungkook, there's reverence but no pedestal. When Jungkook speaks about Halsey, there's admiration without exaggeration. That balance matters to Jungkook, who has always been uncomfortable with artificial praise. He responds to people who see him clearly, flaws included. Halsey sees those flaws and doesn't try to polish them away. She understands that darkness isn't something to escape, but something to navigate. That's why their energy feels less like collaboration and more like co-survival. Both have turned mental health battles into creative fuel, not as inspiration porn, but as documentation, proof that they existed, struggled, and kept going. In that sense, their bond feels like two veterans of emotional wars recognizing each other across a crowded room. There's also a subtle sense of creative freedom when they come together. Jungkook doesn't feel the need to restrain his lyricism or tone down his intensity, and Halsey doesn't feel pressured to be commercially palatable. They give each other permission to be raw, and in an industry obsessed with numbers, that permission is priceless. Their soulmate energy is chaotic but controlled, intense but respectful, like fire contained within strong boundaries. It's not about constant contact or public moments. It's about knowing that somewhere out there, there's someone who truly understands the cost of being honest in your art. And for Jungkook, who has always walked the line between vulnerability and self-protection, that kind of understanding hits deep. That's why Halsey doesn't just pass through a story. She leaves a mark. A reminder that pain can cross oceans, languages, and genres and still feel familiar. Number 2, UI. The soul that understands silence. If there is one connection in Yoongi's universe that feels less like collaboration and more like fate quietly doing its work, it's IU. Their soulmate energy doesn't shout, it breathes. It lives in pauses, in restraint, in the courage to leave space where others would fill noise. From their very first collaboration, the atmosphere around Yoongi and IU felt different. Not romanticized, not exaggerated, just deeply aligned. Two introverts with sharp minds, emotional depth, and a shared understanding that silence can be louder than words. Yoongi doesn't open up easily, but with IU, he doesn't have to perform openness. He simply exists. And IU, who has carried the weight of the industry since her teens, recognizes that exhaustion instantly. They don't explain pain to each other, they acknowledge it. That's the difference. What makes IU soulmate coded for Yoongi is emotional precision. She knows exactly how much to say and when to stop. Yoongi has always admired people who are honest without being reckless, vulnerable without being chaotic. IU embodies that balance. Her lyricism mirrors Yoongi's philosophy. Feelings don't need to be dramatic to be devastating. Both artists explore loneliness, self-worth, pressure, and quiet resilience, not as concepts, but as lived experiences. When Yoongi produces for IU, he doesn't overpower her voice, he frames it. He understands that her strength lies in subtlety, and she trusts him enough to let him guide the emotional architecture of her sound. That level of trust isn't given lightly, especially by two people known for guarding their inner worlds. Their dynamic feels like mutual recognition between survivors. They've both faced public scrutiny, impossible expectations, and moments where quitting felt easier than continuing. Yet neither tries to outshine the other. There's no ego battle here, no need to prove brilliance. They already know. Behind the scenes, their interactions are calm, respectful, almost gentle. Yoongi doesn't joke loudly around IU, and IU doesn't push him to be more expressive. They meet exactly where they are. And that's rare for Yoongi, who often feels misunderstood even when surrounded by people. IU understands his stillness. She doesn't interpret it as coldness or distance. She sees it as thoughtfulness. And Yoongi respects IU not just as a vocalist, but as a storyteller who knows how to carry emotional weight with grace. Their soulmate energy feels like a late-night walk through empty streets, conversations that drift without urgency, and mutual acceptance that life is heavy, but manageable when shared with someone who gets it. IU doesn't complete Yoongi, and Yoongi doesn't save IU. They coexist in honesty. And in Yoongi's world, where trust is rare and authenticity is everything, that kind of connection sits just one step away from the top. Number 1, Saran. Two broken souls, one language. At the very top of this list, where soulmate energy stops being subtle and starts feeling inevitable, stands Saran. This isn't hype, coincidence, or nostalgia, it's alignment.
Pure, emotional, artistic alignment.
When Yoongi and Saran connect, it feels like two people who don't need to translate their pain because they speak the same emotional language. From the very beginning, their bond was never framed as idol to idol or producer to singer. It was always artist to artist, human to human. Yoongi didn't just produce for Saran, he listened to her. And Saran didn't just sing his melodies, she inhabited them. That difference is everything. Their collaboration history carries a rawness that feels almost uncomfortable in its honesty because it wasn't designed to impress, it was designed to release something heavy. Saran's voice carries fragility without weakness, and Yoongi's production carries darkness without bitterness. Together, they don't romanticize pain, they acknowledge it. That's why their music hits differently. It feels lived in, like pages torn from journals neither of them intended to share. What makes Saran Yoongi's strongest soulmate figure is the way their wounds align without competing. Both have spoken openly about mental health struggles, burnout, pressure, and the suffocating expectations of the industry. Neither pretends to have it figured out. And in each other's presence, musical or emotional, they don't need to. Yoongi gives Saran space to sound imperfect, to crack emotionally, to feel real. Saran gives Yoongi permission to lean into vulnerability without wrapping it in irony or sarcasm. There's no need for bravado here. Their energy feels like two people sitting in a dim studio at 3 a.m., exhausted, honest, and finally understood. No cameras, no applause, just truth. Yoongi has always been selective about who he truly opens creative control to, and the trust he placed in Saran speaks volumes. He didn't dilute his sound for her, and she didn't soften her emotion for him. They met in the middle, in that dangerous place where honesty lives. Beyond music, their respect for each other feels deeply personal. Saran has often described working with Yoongi as emotionally intense, not because it was hard, but because it was real. And Yoongi, who rarely praises without meaning, has consistently acknowledged Saran's emotional depth as something rare. Their soulmate energy isn't loud, and it doesn't rely on constant interaction. It exists in impact, in the way their work lingers, in the way fans feel something unresolved, something aching, long after the song ends. Saran doesn't distract Yoongi from his darkness. She understands it. And Yoongi doesn't try to save Saran. He stands beside her inside it. That's the difference between connection and soulmate energy. This bond feels unfinished in the most beautiful way, like a story that doesn't need closure to be meaningful. And that's why, in Yoongi's emotional universe, Saran stands at number one, not as a rumor, not as a fantasy, but as the soul who met him where he truly lives. Their connection also carries a quiet gravity that never needed public validation. Yoongi and Saran never chased moments, never fed narratives, never tried to convince anyone of their closeness, and that restraint is exactly what makes it feel real. In an industry where exposure often replaces depth, they chose depth without exposure. That choice alone tells you how personal the bond was. When Yoongi works with Saran, you can sense that he's not producing from a technical mindset, but from an emotional memory. Every beat feels intentional. Every pause feels like a breath taken together. And Saran's delivery doesn't overpower or decorate his sound. She dissolves into it. That kind of chemistry can't be trained or replicated. It only happens when two people emotionally trust each other enough to be uncomfortable together. Yoongi has always talked about music as a place where he can confess things he'd never say out loud, and Saran is one of the few voices that can carry those confessions without breaking their meaning. She doesn't dramatize his pain, and he doesn't aestheticize hers. They let the emotions sit there, raw, unresolved, human. That's why their work feels haunting rather than catchy. It stays with you, not because it's loud, but because it's honest. There's also a mutual fragility between them that feels almost sacred. Yoongi, who often shields himself with bluntness and dry humor, allows softness to exist around Saran. And Saran, who has spoken about feeling lost and overwhelmed in the industry, finds grounding in Yoongi's emotional clarity. Not solutions, clarity. They don't fix each other, they recognize each other. And that recognition creates safety. Their soulmate energy feels like two people who don't promise forever, but promise truth.
No illusions, no fantasy endings.
Just the understanding that for a moment in time, someone truly saw you. And sometimes, that moment is enough to shape everything that comes after. That's why this connection feels heavier than romance, deeper than collaboration, and rarer than friendship. It's not about labels, it's about impact. In Yoongi's story, Saran represents the point where music, pain, trust, and vulnerability intersect without compromise. And when you understand that, you understand why she stands alone at number one. Not because the bond was loud or lasting in public eyes, but because it was real where it mattered most, in the place Yoongi hides his truth.